Hello and welcome to another free code session. My name is Jason Bach, and I picked the consistency value one to work on now. I did put the poll out there on Twitter, and I have to say, just as a little bit of a rant, I've actually used TweetDeck for a long time. I used it when it was actually like a standalone app because I felt it was so much nicer and easier to use than the Twitter app on your phone or twitter.com or anything like that. And then they eventually made it a web app, and I think they bought it from whoever made TweetDeck. I don't really know, but it eventually stopped being an app in of itself, and you go to tweetdeck.twitter.com. It's pretty much stagnated, and yet I still use it just out of force of habit. I tried to create a poll there. I couldn't figure out how to even create a poll. It seemed like a couple of months ago they were starting to look at adding features to TweetDeck, like putting in was it images or something like that? Like you could copy and paste images in, which I still don't think you can do. And I was like, yes, they're finally making it better. And then it stopped. I'm like, why? What? And when I tell people about TweetDecks, a lot of people are like, what's a TweetDeck? They don't even know what TweetDeck is. So it was a little disappointing. I actually had to go to twitter.com to do it, but there's much harsher things in life to have to deal with, but it's just one of those things I'm like, really? Come on. So anyway, back up to the statistics. So I think we have, for everything, they all derive from data. Okay. So what we're going to add here is a public single consistency. Wait. Float. Like, why wasn't that showing up? I'm being an idiot. Consistency. Okay. We need a way to set it though when you're in the app. No. Protected, because it has to be available from derived classes. Okay. And we could do something where you force it to be passed in here on your constructor, because I think all of them have to pass in that. Okay, hold on. I just got. How consistent are you? Is the deviation? Okay, now I never really even thought about this. If, like in the case of Boolean data, you have, let's say you have 50 occurrences of true and 50 occurrences of false. Then your consistency is 0 because you're right down the middle. If you have 75 and 25, then I think you're actually like at 50%. And if you're at 100 and 0, then yes, you're completely consistent. Either way, it doesn't matter. You're consistent one way or the other with the value that you have. That's what I'm looking for. It's not that is it better to be consistent with true or better to be consistent with false? It doesn't matter. You're just saying with whatever one is winning, with whatever style we picked, you were consistent X amount of time in picking that. So, how do I how am I going to do this? I thought, I can just divide. It'd be easy. I don't think I can necessarily do that. Wow, this just And as soon as I figure this out, I'm gonna be like, "Of course, Jason, you moron! This is this is statistics. How hard can this be?" Apparently, very. So, how do I do this? So let's say I have a value x, and there's a, b, c, and d. Okay, and all those where a plus b plus c plus d must equal x. Okay. So you're looking for the variance between all of those. How consistent are you? Wow. I think I picked the wrong one. I just showed my kids like a week ago Airplane, which is a 70s, I think it was made in the 70s movie. Very slapstickish, very, very farcical, you know. Shirley, you can't be serious. I am serious. And don't call me Shirley. Just dumb commentary like that all through the movie. It's pretty fun. But it also shows its age. There's some things that happen in the movie. It's like, yeah, you wouldn't be able to do that now. That would not be, you know, for reasons. If you know the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I picked the wrong week to do statistics, is I guess what I'm getting at here. Because you could have, let's say that x is 100. You can have this being 88 plus 5. Let's make it a little bit. 72 plus 5, 6. Okay, fine, 78. Let's say 10 is 88 plus 12 is equal to 100. Well, how consistent were you? You know, how much of consistency were you? I guess what you could, maybe that's the way you do it, is you take the highest number divided by the total. Because if it was 100, then it's totally consistent. If you're right in the middle, so let's say, well, sort of. If I was 25 plus, like if I hit it where I'm completely inconsistent, 25 plus 25 is equal to 100, that would actually be 0. So it can't be that difference from the highest to the lowest. Because you can't have a number that's, yeah, so, so let's say that. And I know I'm using base like 10, 100 here or whatever. So let's say I took the highest, 72. So maybe that's it. Highest minus the lowest. And then we get the total. So, and if you have the 2, then it's just the absolute value of the 2 because you don't matter. Because if we have 50 minus 50, yeah, if we had 100 minus 100, I'm sorry, 100 minus 0, then fine. And this also comes into concert with the other thing that I have, which is to make sure that the data values are going to be themselves consistent. Otherwise, you throw a validation or something, some exception like that. So it'd be 72 minus 6 divided by 100, or 66, or 66 divided by 100, which is 66%. If I could find the percent keyboard. Is that realistic? Probably. I mean, that kind of feels sort of like that. Whereas in this case, like 25 minus 25. So you get 0. Oh, divided by 100. 0 divided by 100, which is 0%. You're totally inconsistent. Whereas if I had 100 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0. Doing the work, show your work, children. It'd be 100 minus 0. Divided by 100, guess what the answer is going to be? Oh, I know you're at the edge of your seats. Which is equal to 100% consistent. And let's just do like another higher one. 90, we'll say 92 plus 2 plus, that's 4, 94, 5 plus 1. Or do you want to take the second highest one? Or do you want to take the summation of all the others to see how inconsistent you are? You can't do that here, though, because that would overwhelm. You definitely want to bound it. You can't go over what you have here, other than you would just assume that you'd be going under. But maybe you don't take, because if you did that, if you had like, let's try to skew this. If I said 28 plus 22 plus, what would that be? No. I'm trying to do that one. That's right. And I'm saying the lowest. So now I do 25 plus 28 plus 22 plus 25 75. So let's just make this 21, and then that's 26, right? Yeah, there we go. Of course, that equals 100. What are you going to think? So the current logic would then say 28 minus 21 over 100, which would then be 7 over 100, and so that would be 7% consistency. Okay. But is that true? Because you're really, like, that is how inconsistent you are. Or is it the average of those two? You know, like if I had 40 and then I had, like, what is the average of all the rest? Well, yeah, because, does that make sense? So it's your highest value minus the average of all the rest divided by the total. There's probably some actual statistical algorithm that I should be using here. I'm just making it up as I go along here. And for anybody who's watching this, who's smashing that thumbs down button saying, "You suck," because you don't know what you're doing, Jason. Yeah, I admit it. I have no idea what I'm doing here. I'm just guessing what makes the most sense. How inconsistent would you be compared to the, this is your most consistent value. And then how much inconsistency do you have compared to the others? And obviously this is the best case, because that's saying this is your worst case. Okay. And if you had like 25, well, then see, if you had 26 as one of your upper values, that would make sense. Then that actually becomes the upper value. So if I said 26 plus 24 plus 25 plus 26, that would average it all out. So it would be 26 over 25. So if I said 26 minus 25, that'd be, so you have 1% consistency. Whereas if I did it this way, where it's highest plus lowest, it'd be 26, it'd be 2% consistency. And that's slightly not exactly what I'm looking for. I think you'd probably want to say highest over the average of the rest is the total. Okay. And now for something like Boolean data, if I come back to this, I don't have to get that fancy. I can just say, take true minus false, do the absolute value, divided by the total, and you're done. Okay. For some of the other ones, I might need to be a little bit smarter about how I figure this out. Which comes back to the question, do I force it on the constructor of data here? Which basically says, you tell me what the consistency is. Because it can't calculate it. There's Boolean data, there's other things that have more than one value and so on. So I can't force that. But if I put it into the constructor here, on the base here, that makes sense from a model standpoint to some degree, but then, this one's either just passing default. This one becomes harder because now I have to shove into here what the actual calculation is. And to actually do that calculation might be harder. For example, if I said here private, let's just hypothetically do that. Let's say this is going to break the world. Okay, if I say float consistency, okay, now I got to come in here. Now this is all going to break. Yes, it does. Okay, now if I say here private float get consistency, where right now I just say return default, okay, and I pass that into here, this dot get consistency, it doesn't even know what that is. You can't do that. That it will not like. Okay, and that makes sense. I understand. I get why. It's a long story, but I get why you can't do that. So Yeah. That would force you then to put in, a number like that. And some... bet it won't let me do this. Yeah, it will not let me do that. Cannot convert lambda expression to type float because it is not a delegate type. Sure. Introduce field. Why not? Yeah, it would start to get a little bit hairy. So I don't think, for the simple case of Boolean data, I think it would work. For harder cases, I don't think it would work because you'd have to somehow, you just can't do it. So I think what we'll do is we'll keep it like this. And then what I'd really like to say here is you can only set this property on construction. Okay, so, and this would be something that you would never add to the C# language specification, but it'd be kind of a cool addition, which is to say set on construction. And so it would look for any sets of this property and say, you have to have done it within the context of a constructor call. Somewhere up your call chain, you had to have done it through a constructor. Otherwise, and I know there would be people like, oh my dear God, that's a horrible thing to do. But that's the thing I want to express here. That's the rule I want to express. Okay, I only want this to be set on construction. I do not want this set anywhere else. But at least I can't think of a way other than if I start making this a like a public static factory method, which has its own problems because that can't be inherited. How do I actually create for all those different types? That's not what I want to do either. So that's, again, this is just spitballing, eyeballing, I spit, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, an idea. I should capture that idea in my to-do. I am. Consider making an analyzer for a set on construction attribute for fields and probably properties where its setter can only be called within the call flow of a constructor. So at some point you had to call the constructor of where this thing was defined or its subclass or whatever. I mean, the details I get into later, but I don't know. It seems like maybe, I have a library out there that I was originally going to do dynamic proxies for in .NET. And it was going to be called Tachyon. And so I noticed there was nobody else in NuGet that had the word Tachyon for a name. I'm like, cool, I'm going to call it Tachyon from the future. But I quickly found out that there was actually a way to do this in .NET Core. I forget the name of it, dynamic proxy or something like that. It's already built in. So it's like, the whole idea of creating this proxy object, you already get that in .NET Core. That's a done thing for you. And I think that's actually on my list of things to look at. Dispatch proxy. Yep, it was in my notes. So now I've got this library with this cool name, but I can't come up with anything. And so I'm starting to wonder, maybe what I make that package is just like a grab bag of things that I've done with rosin from all my books, from all over the place, and maybe make that some kind of, package. Now, you can't necessarily do that with some of the things I've done with extensions, Visual Studio extensions, but it's a thought, and that would be one of them to go in there is like, hey, think about this idea. Maybe you find some use in it. Anyway, let's come back to this and go, okay, so here we're going to say this.consistency is equal to, by our rules, will be, and I'm not going to, nope, not going to do that, absolute of two values here, of true occurrences, oh my God, minus false occurrences, okay. And that's going to be interpreted as a float divided by float of total occurrences. And there we go. And now it's saying, oh, you don't need unnecessary casts. But that one you do. Ah! So then it's smart enough to go, you're going to do this right, I guess. I'm just curious. If I say this, is it going to say those are unnecessary parentheses? No, they do not. No, they do not. So I guess you're going to do the right thing? Because it was the cast, was it the cast of the result of this divided by this? Or was it the cast of this divided by where now this actually has to be a float? Yeah, because now it's thinking it's a float ref. Oh, so if I took that off, what did it consider it to be? It's still a float left, float right. So it will automatically cast that. Okay. All right. That's good enough. Okay. Okay. So I shouldn't have any errors now, and I don't. So let's go to my Boolean data tests. And why you have a temporary file there, I do not know. So I'm going to go to my statistics file. We're going to go to Boolean data. I don't care about, we're just going to make one test that is focused on the right thing. Okay, just public static void evaluate consistency. Okay. So we're going to say our data is equal to Boolean data. We're going to say the total is 100. We're going to U, because you can't cast that. This is 75U. This is 25U. Okay. And what we're going to, we can do this all in one shot. We can say assert that a new Boolean data consistency is equal to 50F. Yeah, it's just that simple. Right. Oh, one failed? One failed? How could one fail? Oh. Well, of course. It's right. It's definitely right. I did it wrong, which is what I really should be doing here is multiplying it by 100. Or do you say there's a consistency value that's between 0 and 1? And you just multiply that by 100 yourself to get the consistency value. It really doesn't matter either way. I think I'm going to leave it this way for now because it just doesn't matter. Whether you make it a percentage or whether you don't doesn't really matter. As long as you say, as long as I know or somebody will know, oh yeah, that's what it means. That's good enough. Okay, so we got Boolean data in here. Let's actually check that in. Okay, so now we want, we did Boolean, let's see accessibility modifier data. Oh no, no, we can't do that. Because guess why? This dot consistency is equal to, oh my god. Okay, so, I could say var values is equal to new not provided occurrences, provided default occurrences, and provided not default occurrences. Okay, and so now here, if I go back to Boolean data, I could say float of values max I know this is like overkill, but this makes it simple, and it makes it so I can actually read it. Now, how do you do the rest? How do you do the rest? I could just make it a list, but every time I recreate this, I'm making another list, which, and it would be nice to know that thing is the max. Like, this is just going to give me a number. I don't know what the actual, like, which one of the three was the max. Well, okay. Let's think of it a different way. Var max var average is equal to I'm already like breaking out my head. Greater than, God, greater than or equal to, and greater than or equal to that. Okay, I know that. Okay, just shut up. We're going to provide not provided occurrences as the first value, and no, there is no average. Of course it would be an average. Okay. Else 0f, 0f. Okay, now that would work. Because now max here is a float. Yes. But all the algebra is hitting me right now. It's so stupid. If that's strictly, so if you had like 35, 34, and 33, okay, then you know that that is your max. Then you can say, well, what if provided default was greater than that? Because then you know A is greater than B is greater than C. A is greater than B is greater than... Well, this is not what you've proven here. You've only proven that A is greater than B and A is greater than C. No, don't save it. So all you need to know now is if that... So if those are true, if both of those are true, then you know that that is strictly the max. Else, one of these is greater. So you could say, is B greater than A and C greater than, and B greater than C? Then you know that B is strictly the max. do I just say, well, my math is showing. Well, do you just say then that it doesn't matter? Like if all those were equal, that wouldn't be true. So then it doesn't matter. Pick one and get the average of the other two. It would be kind of nice to have some way to get this, to just calculate it. You know, as like as an array extension. Rather than me figuring this out for each one, to just pass in all those as, and I know that's an allocation, but or just make it a list and just deal with the tiny allocation that it would do. And I could say, hey, I know it's a list of this many, so I can say allocated only to that, and deal with the overhead. You know what? I think I'm going to do one more, and we're going to try to do that. And let me just look here real quick. So we've got that one. Expression body data takes 1, 2, 3. Modifier data takes stuff. Ooh. It's the sum of those plus the sum of those. Well, then you... I see you just like an avatar. I haven't had anything to drink today, and I'm just, Total occurrences, I think, will be... Yeah, the addition of all those. But that's good. That actually... Okay. All right. I can deal. And then tab space data is just where tab should just be 100 all the time. I should just write it that way. Okay, we're going to do one more one and do this, and then I can use that in all of them, and then we can close this one out and maybe get back to the validation one. So that's all for now. Thank you all for watching. Leave comments and questions below. See you in the next episode.